just sent that to you, Mark.
Okay, good afternoon to the, our budget meeting with the Economic and Planning and Economic Development. Maybe we go over the summary and then maybe off to the FTEs.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, first of all, Mr. Chairman, do you have a question for Mr. Geis?
Yes,
E-summary. Can you tell me how many open positions you currently have?
A half a position,
One half.
0.5.
The other question is, in your FTE summary, the second line of your reason for change says discontinued shared position with engineering.
Yes.
And engineering doesn't show any FTE change for that. Not your problem, I realize.
Well, I'm just speculating, but they could be trying to fill that with a half a position or what. We're going to share a position with DPF for all the infrastructure and brownfield stuff we're working on. We did interviews. We really couldn't find the candidate that we could agree on, so we're just giving up that 0.5 position, and maybe engineering is going to do something with it.
So I would ask the budget director to look into the engineering to see if they are adding that half a person.
Will do.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay. You would walk us through it?
Yeah. Yeah, so I'll start high level here. This shows a 91.5 local share increase in our department. I'm going to give you the top 3 or 4 reasons why that is the case. There's $1 million put into the budget for lakes. My salary and benefits were transferred from the county executive's budget over to the planning division. There's a piece of Dave McCoy, the watershed manager's position that was pulled from the occupancy tax and is now coming out of the local share because we were trying to stay under that 10% admin for the program rules. And then there's 0.8s and 0.1s that are really out of our control. So there's nothing in here that's, that we're asking for a lot of money for anything new. We've always been lean. During COVID, we were able to cut back like 20% during COVID. And again, these are things that we basically have no control over, most of them. We already talked about the FTEs. So the way that shows a negative, or shows a positive 0.5, again, because there's one position, me, from county executive to our budget, and then we're not filling that 0.5, so it shows a 0.5 increase. Okay, makes sense. Okay, well, I'm on the 3rd page, the planning and economic development. Again, that if you look at the 2024 budget increase, you see a 1.25 million. That's that 91.5% increase. And you can sort of see where it comes from. The personnel services at the top line, increase of 159 there. That's both the CSEA contract increases and also my position. You can see the 1.24 increases in the occupancy tax spending, which is not only due to the million, but also the increase in the budget for the occupancy tax.
And just real quick, Mark, on that
please.
comment, I'm realizing that's a little bit misleading. The 1.24 is primarily contractual increases for lakes and waterways, funded partially by the 2% occupancy tax program, partially by the $1 million the county executive is proposing in local share.
I have a big question mark there because I was wondering about that same thing. And then 58 with increases in employee benefits. We do show in the revenue side an increase of $169,000 in the occupancy tax revenue. We show potential increases in the snowmobile grant program of $38,000. That seems, that consistently increases over time. So I don't know if anybody has any questions on that. No? Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so now we'll break this down, 80/20, which is planning. And again, what you see here is a increase in personal services. So my position, what we did is we split it between 80/20 and 64/20, 50/50. So you'll see an increase here, both in 80/20 and 64/20 for that position, for my position.
And 80/20 is the planning division within our department. 64/20 is promotion of industry or economic development. Those are kind of used interchangeably.
Yep. And you can see here that we've also got that increase in snowmobile grant funding that comes through 80/20, and an increase in the health insurance. And then that's, at least the snowmobile is offset, more than offset by the increase in revenues. So we have increase of about 55 there.
And I also just wanted to point out, I worked with Jen, and we really consolidated 3 sub-departments on this summary page. 80/20 is planning. We have not budgeted anything in 80/23 or 87/47 since 2021, but we still needed to include those numbers for the purposes of the summary and the comparison to prior years. So nothing budgeted for those 2 sub-departments for next year, but we still had to include.
That's farmland protection and lake age.
Yes.
Okay.
Questions there?
Anybody?
Watershed, on the expense side, increase in personal services, slight increase there. Contractual, again, that's where that million is, and an increase in employee benefits. That's the increase from Dave's, part of Dave's salary and benefits, being shifted over to local share from the occupancy tax.
So is it like 50/50, or is it, is the whole salary?
No, it's only like, what, 10%?
90/10. 90/10?
Yep. Yep. And then, the 91 non-property tax items, what's the 91?
That's, again, increased revenue from the 2% program.
Okay. And then economic development, again, on the personal services side, there's my salary being shifted over, half of it coming out of there. And increase in, what else is contributing that? You talked through this page.
Yeah,
Nate.
so again, the 93 is, again, half of Mark's position. In the point ones, again, we looked at our spending and our contractual and trimmed that back slightly. 1,239. The 49, again, is the reallocation of half of Mark's position, as well as general increases. And then this department gets $30,000 in revenue from the occupancy tax program, the 3% program, to offset our department's administrative time to manage that program. Any questions there?
And that's not a change from,
Nope, that's been consistent now for 4 years, 30.
And then the last page, community contracts, we have, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 contracts, libraries, soil and water, Cornell Cooperative Extension has 2, the IDA, Jamestown Community College, SBDC, and this shows a $38,000 increase there because we want to give the community contracts, you know, we haven't increased that amount for a long time. We give each one a 3% increase.
With the exception of Cornell.
Yep, and then,
And soil and
except for
water.
Cornell, we're looking at a 20%, or a
No.
$20,000, hold on, $20,000 increase at SBDC.
Yeah.
So, 3% increase, other than the IDA, we're okay, we don't need it. Everyone else gets 3%, and the SBDC gets a $20,000 increase. So,
So you mentioned Cornell Cooperative Extension, they get the 3%.
yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And the 20,000 that you mentioned for, that's an increase?
Yes.
And why, can you tell us about that? Why that is?
Yeah.
So Courtney's here if there are any specific questions, but in a nutshell, she's, you know, getting directives from, you know, Albany that there's not gonna be as much funding next year, and she's at risk of having to potentially lay off one of their associates. Again, I'd say the last several years, especially under Courtney's leadership, we've just seen a tremendous amount of activity out of them. New businesses, working hand in glove with the IDA business development managers, assisting a number of our clients, and it's something we wanna think they're deserving of, and will help small business and entrepreneurship here.
I'll add to that over the last couple of years, Courtney has asked us about, you know, increasing that amount because of these cuts, these impending cuts, and we sort of pushed her off, and we said, well, maybe this year we can do that. And again, working with SBDC has just been a pleasure, and in fact, we've worked with them on the ARPA projects, one of the ARPA projects. We meet regularly. She's been involved with the Partnership for Economic Growth on one of the committees. So, you know, we feel very strongly that they're deserving of this increase. And they don't get a lot of money from us to start with. The total amount that they get is
At the bottom here.
34,000.
And just to clarify too, most of the community contracts, all with the exception of soil and water and Cornell, have really stayed flat for the last several years. So they haven't seen an increase in at least 5 years.
Yeah.
Anybody have anything? You've got
And
a
then-
question.
And the last page, right here, tourism is an increase in revenues, is offset by an increase in expenses there. So there's just a, you know, it's, each year our occupancy tax is increasing, and I think this is a pretty conservative estimate from our finance people. If I can say one more thing before maybe questions, I wrote at the top of this, gratitude, and that's how I wanted to start out, to tell you all how grateful we are for always supporting everything we're doing, and it's been a pleasure working with all of you, and all of us really appreciate your support.
Thank you. We appreciate everything you get.
Any questions?
Be disappointed if they did.
What are future plans for the extra investment into the lake? You know, why should we fund that at the level at which it is funded?
Well, I was prepared to talk about this, and there are a couple of things I think that are important. One is that, you know, the starry stonewort is a good example of a situation where it's good to have some funding that's there that you can access, because you just don't know when something like that is gonna come along and you need money to eradicate it. Or things like Burtis Bay, late in the fall, just being a mess and being able to sort of have the resources to do these projects. So I would say one thing is sort of these emergency situations. You know, there are also projects that you know, every year there's projects funding through the 2% occupancy tax that we can't fund all the projects, and there are good projects that we can't fund each year. So this would be a way that we could supplement that project money and get some of these other good projects implemented. Then I think also, you know, it wouldn't be a bad idea to sort of look at the Alliance and see, you know, ways in which we can supplement more funding to them. Do you want to add to that, Dave?
Yeah, I'd like to, Mark.
Yeah,
You know,
please.
Looking beyond Chautauqua Lake, the little lakes, as I like to call them, all have some significant needs. Finley Lake has got stormwater projects going on. They're looking at an aeration project. Finley has over 440 property owners that surround the lake. They're a significant part of our tax base. Bear Lake, very small lake, but they have some dredging and some invasive species needs. Casadega Lakes, you know, for some reason, somebody dumped 10,000 tires in one of the corners of Casadega Lake. They need to come out, and this would be an opportunity to help pull some of those out. They've also got some dredging needs down at the inlet. Some sediment bars are building up, could affect the way that the lake drains. And then I think we're all aware of the issues of Lake Erie shoreline. There are a lot of spots up there that need some serious help. You know, got a nice project slated for 2024 in Sheridan. Certainly there's more that could be done up there. So if you look at it from a lake-wide perspective, this million is a great opportunity.
Does the Jefferson project need any more funds? I didn't see that earmarked specifically, but is that included in any of this funding this year?
I heard that was gonna happen.
It's a national
Test. It's a test of the
yeah,
weather.
they're testing also to see if
I
there's
think
a
that's-
national emergency, if they can reach everyone in the nation all at once.
Do you wanna
Thank you.
answer that, or do you want me to take the first crack at it?
No, it does not include any funding for the Jefferson project. You know, it's a partnership with Chautauqua Institution. We're anxious to see how much they're willing to support. We have an important deliverable coming up here at the end of 2024 with the money we've already invested. Hopefully that will help us chart a course for the future. And, you know, we're kind of hoping that maybe the state will help out through some funding through the Environmental Protection Fund, which is funded at a higher level than it ever has been in the past. So that's still in the air.
Well, I'd just hate to see it, say, you know, you've mentioned all these other projects, and then you get halfway through next year, and you say, well, geez, the Jefferson project needs 650,000, and there goes the money, you know, and so I just
Yeah, well,
wanted to
we're-
pose that
Yeah,
question.
we're not alone, you know, the Shelton
question.
Foundation contributed over 500,000 for the tributary monitoring stations. So we do have a broad base of support.
That you could go back to. Is that, if in fact there was something like that, because you have a broad base of support, you could go back to, hopefully. Right,
But you know, the county has a lot to gain
right,
through the Health of Chautauqua Lake.
exactly.
And I gotta tell you, 2023 has been a great year on Chautauqua Lake. My phone hasn't rung You know, and that in itself speaks volumes, you know, the silence is deafening. And, you know, some of the investments that we've made, you know, starting back when we bought a Mobitrack with state money, you know, county owns equipment, well, county doesn't own equipment, but we did own equipment and we put it to good use. And then 2 years ago, when we used occupancy tax funds that were freed up by pandemic problems to buy another Mobitrack and a conveyor. And now we've acquired 2 skimmers, and we're looking to buy another harvester and transport. Last week, I was out in Asheville Bay, and they're working on the Starry Stormwater problem. This stuff is growing exponentially. Started at 2 acres, went to 5, now it's at 90. The littoral zone is only 3,700 acres. If you do the math, we have about 8 years to lick this problem before the whole littoral zone becomes slime. And the only thing that was coming out of there in terms of fish were bullheads when we were harvesting this stuff. Do we want to transition from a well-known lake for muskie and walleye to a well-known lake for algae and bullheads? I don't think so. But it gave me pause as I was able to sit and smile and say, there's 2 Mobitracks that the county owns working on this project, 2 skimmers that the county owns that's working on this project. We're dumping the stuff into a conveyor that the county owns. The town of Chautauqua, the town of North Harmony, Chautauqua Lake Partnership, the Chautauqua Lake Association, and the Chautauqua Watershed Conservancy are all partnering, we're all sitting there smiling, and we're getting something done.
Chautauqua County
That's very
landfill.
cool.
The landfill's taking it.
There you go. Yep. Well, good.
So good stuff going on.
Yeah, yeah. Anybody else?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Can you go, I think Nate, you were talking about it, the occupancy tax administrative costs and the shift in Dave's salary. Can you clarify again?
I'm
how
sure
that-
Jen or Kitty could add to this, but basically, our starting point for 2024 tentative occupancy tax budget is 2022 actual. And so that's, you know, reflected here. And then per the state law, you know, and I guess I could say there's maybe a difference between administrative and program delivery, but we're just keeping it at 10% for total admin. Finance department, law department, and our department.
Yeah.
So there's a shift from fund balance, is that what you said, for salary? Or-
So the,
No.
typically the 2% budget has covered 100% of Dave's salary, benefits, contractual items in his sub-department. There's a 15,000 and change difference there to keep under that 10% cap that's funded by local share.
Does that mean that there's more money to go towards the lake then?
Well, there is overall, but we're
Yep.
staying within the administrative cap for the state law as well, so.
Okay, thank
Both.
you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
And I'd like to add what we've done to help rebalance that equation is our existing grant program focused largely on watershed spending. And that's good, and most people think that's a prudent thing to do. But there's a recognized need for in-lake spending. So this year, we're funding $250,000 for in-lake spending. We have to stand up a separate program, get a new review panel, take applications, and get that up and running for 2024. It's similar to what we do with the watershed side, except we've had a year to get ready for 2024. We don't have that for 2024 with the Little Lake side. My gut feeling is the best thing to do is allow applicants into this, fast track them, and probably phase those projects where the first year would be engineering, permitting, those sorts of things, and the second year would be implementation. And that fits well with the Little Lakes needs for graduating and
Yeah, I just wanted to remind the committee, the exhibit for the breakdown of the occupancy tax is in the tentative budget. It's under the operating tab, and it shows you the differences from 2023 to 2024 and all of the allocations based on the changes to the law.
Yep.
Thank you.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, in the very beginning, under the operating tab, it's the last couple of pages under the operating tab. So there were a few changes in terms of how we had to stay within the allowable amount for administrative costs. And then, the law also defined, what type of lake spending, had to be in certain parameters, so.
50% in
We
lake.
kind of backed into those numbers and we revised the format a little bit, so it would be more clear to follow along against, the changes in the law.
Jerry?
Kev, a line item question, if that's okay. You guys, 80/20 other contractual, I think somebody mentioned that most of your contracts had stayed flat, but nonetheless, there's a $94,000 increase. What's driving that mostly? Ben, I think you'd mentioned most of the contracts had stayed flat.
Yeah, so, I believe Terry in 80/20, we're budgeting higher snowmobile tax or snowmobile trail, maintenance revenue from the state. So we did, look back at the last several years, and instead of having go back to the legislature to do a budget amendment, we're budgeting a little higher based on previous, year's revenue.
Are you talking, Terry, I'm sorry, you're on the 80/20 with that 93,457 increase, is that what you're talking about?
Well, it says 94,556 here. I'm on page 8 of 9. Under 80/20, the watershed.
Oh, watershed, okay.
Oh, so the watershed, that's,
Yeah.
the 91 is increased 2% revenue and
Yeah.
corresponding to increased expenditures, just from the overall growth of the revenue in the occupancy tax.
Okay, but most of the other contracts had stayed flat, did you say, Ben, for this?
So,
Under other contractual?
again,
I believe he's looking at the specific line item. I don't know if you
I
guys
am.
have.
I don't-
This is page 8 of 9 of our budget books.
Okay.
under revenue,
Well,
Maybe
no, I'm not sure.
other contractual, 80/20 watershed?
80/20. Okay, WTRS, other contractual. Actual amount in 2021 was 82,154. In this year, it's 350,116 for an increase of 94,556. And it's like a 40% increase, and I'm just wondering why.
so what, Terry, can you just say again what two numbers you're comparing?
Well, I'm looking at the increase.
The 94.
Basically, been 94,556.
255, 224, 350, and then 94. Because that doesn't show up here.
Doesn't show up on their.
Well, again, there's a $96,000,
Much everything in this account is just based on what's in the occupancy tax schedule, so, if we moved where it was included in the line item, might account for the difference.
Okay, so I guess what I'm asking is, it's increasing by about 94,000. I'm just wondering why.
Is that an increase from the on the revenue side, there's an increase? No?
no, that's expense mark,
This
so.
this is actually the
In a
I
program.
mean, I'm
nutshell-
saying, does that offset it because the occupancy tax revenues are gone up, so the contractual
Yeah, so
is gonna go up?
Okay, so it-
again, it's, on the summary document, it's showing $1,000,000
96.
$96,000 increase. $1 million is from the local share for that lake fund.
Okay,
The rest is increased contractual expenditure due to increased 2% program revenue.
okay, so it's offset.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, all right,
Yep,
good enough.
yep.
I have another question, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
In regards to this, the recent audit, are any of those suggestions reflected in your budget?
They really don't have anything to do with planning and development. That was all IDA stuff.
All IDA?
Yep,
Okay.
nothing to do with
Nothing in the
any of this.
contractual side of that at all?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a quick question? With regard to the $1 million that is going to the waterways, you referenced that it's there for emergencies and different projects. Previous to this money being in the budget, how did we handle, I mean, I know we probably just didn't do projects, but how did we handle emergencies?
Did you hear that?
No.
In the past, when we had emergencies in the
Yes.
watershed stuff, and we didn't have that $1 million sitting there, how did we handle those emergencies? I'll let him answer that.
It took a while. You know, we would have to come to the legislature and try to pull some money from the 2% occupancy tax reserve. That's generally how it handled those.
Okay.
That's how we handled the big fish kill in 2018 and some of the other late season stuff that we've had to do. So that's typically our opportunity to be able to be responsive. But it takes a while to get through the system.
And
By the time you
generally,
get on the agenda and get through and get it voted and then get a contract or an amendment to deliver it, takes months.
yeah. Generally, approximately how much in emergencies have you seen over the course of the last couple of years in dollar amount?
You know, that's a number that I'm really prepared to come up
Okay.
with at this point, but, you know, they are emergencies.
Right.
You know, we can try to plan for things. I think our best planning tool is a reserve, at least it has been historically.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
All means, Mr. Chairman.
So with the reenactment of the occupancy tax legislation, a new requirement has been placed on us, and the requirement is recipients must meet specified performance requirements. How do we plan on dealing with that new requirement?
Well, you know, we do an annual report each year for the IDA does one, for all the contracts are all required to do one, so, and we do report back to the PED committee every year, we sort of say what we did, and I think that, I think if we do a report, basically a summary report, that documents what we did with the occupancy tax, is the way we should handle that.
The law says that they must meet specified performance requirements. So how are you going to specify the requirements and then assure that they are meeting them?
I'll let Dave chime into this too, but right now we have contracts for both 2% and 3% allocations, and those contracts, we work with the law department and others to specify specific services, payment language, and then reporting requirements. So I'm sure we'll be taking a look at those probably November, December, gearing up for, getting under contract in January, February, and if we need to tweak anything, we can.
Okay. That's what I thought your answer was going to be, Nate, as I'm happy you did that. And I also agree that you probably need to review those to make sure that your specified performance requirements are up to snuff.
Good point, yep.
We have been doing that with some of our agency allocation contracts.
Some of
Not
them.
all of them, but most of them.
Exactly, yep.
And I think it's worked out very well. There's been some resistance to doing that, but I think the stipulation in the state legislation will help us overcome that.
Yes. Now we don't have a choice. We're required to do it. Right. it was good practice in the past. And I agree with you, Dave. We made good progress with some of our recipients and making sure that they were doing what we expected them to do. And I think now we have the opportunity, thanks to the state legislation, to do it with all the recipients.
Mr. Chair,
Yes. Ben Harlow.
Mark, could you just, for myself and maybe for other few new people on this committee, this budget is planning and economic development, IDA separate from this. Of your staff, I imagine there's a lot of crossover between IDA and planning and economic development. What is the total FTEs for both IDA and county planning and economic development? Because I don't know that.
Combined, there's
Yes.
there's 20.
20. Thank you.
Anybody else? Anything to add? Here you go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
No?
Negative. I'm gonna recuse that.
Thank you, sir.
Are we done?
No, it's,
Want to talk?
how do, if there's 20,
I like hanging out with you, Kevin.
I can understand that.
So, yeah.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I said, first, you second?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 You don't need it.
That's why we're
You got a good solid flat there.
finance department.
Done for the day?
You're done for the day. You're still on camera. I don't know. Is Libby up there?
Still on camera. So,
Well, I guess that's it.
There she is. She's gonna turn it on.
Yes, we did.
so you guys are gonna have an interesting conversation.
Just wanna make sure we're all.
What?